Admiral Day Quan stood on the bridge of the Earth battleship Indomitable, watching the stars streak past as his fleet traveled through hyperspace. He was a tall man with gray hair and sharp eyes that had seen many battles. Today should have been a good day. Earth's fleet was heading to meet their alien allies for what everyone believed was a peaceful military exercise. 15 years had passed since humans joined the Galactic Council. It was supposed to be humanity's greatest achievement. Finally, Earth was not alone in the universe. They had friends among the stars, or so they thought. Ambassador Hana Cho had worked hard to build relationships with the alien species. She was a skilled diplomat who believed in the good of all beings. Just 2 weeks ago, she stood before the Council and proudly announced that Earth would send its best ships to the Outer Rim. The aliens smiled and thanked her. They said this exercise would strengthen the bonds between species. But something felt wrong to Captain Minho Park. He was Earth's intelligence officer, and his job was to be suspicious. While others celebrated, Minho spent his nights in the communications room, listening to alien transmissions. Most of it was boring routine traffic. Then, 3 days ago, he found something strange. The message was encrypted, hidden inside normal communications between two council species. Minho was good at his job. He spent 40 hours breaking the code, drinking too much coffee and barely sleeping. When he finally read the decoded message, his blood ran cold. He immediately contacted Dr. Yuna Lee, Earth's best expert in alien languages. Yuna was a small woman with quick fingers and a quicker mind. She had learned 17 alien languages in just 5 years. When Minho showed her the message, her face went pale. The message was simple and terrifying. The Galactic Council had never intended this to be a training exercise. They planned to destroy Earth's fleet, all of it. Every ship, every human soldier traveling through space right now. The Council feared humanity. Humans learned too fast. Human technology improved too quickly. Human soldiers were too adaptable, too creative, too dangerous. 7 different alien species had agreed to the plan. They would wait until Earth's fleet arrived at the designated coordinates. Then they would attack from all sides. The humans would be cut off from home, their communications jammed. No one on Earth would know what happened until it was too late. Yuna and Minho rushed to find Ambassador Hana. She was still on the Council homeworld, attending diplomatic meetings. When they told her what they discovered, she refused to believe it at first. These were her friends. She had shared meals with them, laughed at their jokes, worked beside them for years, but the evidence was clear. The encryption keys matched Council military channels. The species mentioned were all members of the Council's Security Committee. Hana felt sick. She had given them everything they needed. She had told them exactly how many ships Earth was sending, what route they would take, when they would arrive. She had walked Earth's fleet into a trap. Hana immediately tried to send a warning to Admiral Day, but the Council had already started jamming Earth's long-range communications. Only short bursts could get through, and those were being monitored. She managed to send a coded message hidden in a routine diplomatic report. She prayed Minho would see it and understand. Meanwhile, Admiral Day's fleet was only 3 hours from the meeting point. The ships were Earth's finest: 20 battleships, 40 cruisers, and 100 smaller vessels. Nearly 50,000 human men and women, all believing they were going to make peace stronger. Lieutenant Tai Nam was monitoring communications when he noticed something odd. The diplomatic channels were showing unusual activity. Then he received Ambassador Hana's report. At first it looked normal, but Tai had worked with Hana before. He knew her writing style. Something was different. He ran the report through analysis software and found it. Hidden in the text were extra words that seemed out of place. When read alone, they spelled out a message. Trap. Council plans ambush, jam communications, destroy fleet, 3 hours. Tai ran to the bridge so fast he nearly knocked over 2 other officers. He showed the message to Admiral Day. The Admiral read it twice, his face becoming hard as stone. He looked at the countdown timer showing 2 hours and 40 minutes until arrival. Admiral Day had fought in Earth's last war 20 years ago. He had seen betrayal before. He had lost friends to enemies who smiled while planning murder. He trusted his instincts, and his instincts screamed that this message was real. He called an emergency meeting with his senior officers. Commander Jiwoo Shin commanded the fighter squadrons. Chief Engineer Rina Bay kept the ships running. They all gathered in the war room. Admiral Day showed them the message. Some wanted to turn back immediately. Others said it might be a mistake or a test. Admiral Day made his decision. They would continue forward, but they would be ready. The fleet would spread out as they approached. Ships would charge weapons. Shields would be at maximum. And if the aliens attacked, humanity would not die quietly. Rina immediately began modifying the ship's systems. She rerouted power, prepared backup systems, and readied emergency protocols. Jiwoo briefed his fighter pilots. They would launch the moment trouble started. Tae worked to prepare countermeasures against the jamming that was coming. As the fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the meeting coordinates, Admiral Day saw his worst fears confirmed. The area was supposed to be empty except for a few council ships. Instead, sensors showed hundreds of alien vessels waiting in ambush positions. They were hidden behind asteroids and planetoids, their weapons already charged. Admiral Day had seconds to decide. In that moment, he thought of Earth. He thought of the humans who trusted him. He thought of Ambassador Hana, who had been deceived. He thought of all the people back home who believed the Council was their friend. Then the Council opened fire. Space lit up with weapons fire as hundreds of alien ships attacked simultaneously. The Council had brought overwhelming force. They intended to crush humanity in one terrible moment. Missiles streaked through space. Energy weapons carved through the darkness. The trap had been sprung. But Admiral Day was ready. As the first shots fired, he gave the order that would save his fleet and change the galaxy forever. His voice was calm, cold, and absolutely certain. All ships execute emergency scatter protocol. Fight as you retreat. Make them pay for every inch. And send this message to Earth. The Council has betrayed us. We are at war. The battle had begun, and humanity would show the galaxy what humans did when cornered. The Indomitable shook violently as 3 missiles struck its shields. Alarms screamed throughout the ship. Red emergency lights flashed across the bridge. Admiral Day gripped his command chair as another explosion rocked the battleship. Around him, his fleet was breaking apart, but not the way the Council expected. Human ships scattered in every direction like a school of fish attacked by predators. But these fish had teeth. As they retreated, they fired back. Every human ship launched everything it had: missiles, torpedoes, energy weapons, even emergency debris cannons. The Council ships had expected an easy slaughter. Instead, they met resistance. Commander Jiwoo Shin launched her fighter squadron the moment the first shot was fired. Her small fighter, barely larger than an old Earth jet, screamed away from the carrier ship. Behind her, 200 other fighters followed. The Council had fighters too, but they flew in perfect formations, following ancient tactics taught for centuries. Jiwoo's pilots flew like demons. They broke every rule in the standard combat manual. They spun, rolled, and dove in ways that made the alien pilots confused. One human fighter flew straight toward an alien cruiser, making the aliens think it would crash. At the last second, the pilot rolled sideways and fired missiles into the cruiser's weak point. The alien ship exploded in a ball of fire. The Council commander watched his perfect ambush falling into chaos. His name was Vrel, and he had fought in 30 battles across the galaxy. Never had he seen such madness. The humans were not running. They were fighting while moving, turning their retreat into a running battle. His ships outnumbered the humans 3-1, but somehow his forces were taking heavy damage. Admiral Day guided his fleet toward a nearby asteroid field. It was dense and dangerous, but that was exactly what he wanted. Council ships were big and slow. They avoided asteroid fields because one collision could destroy a ship, but human ships were smaller and more nimble, and human pilots had been training in asteroid fields around Earth's solar system for decades. The first Council ships that followed humans into the asteroid field learned their mistake quickly. A human destroyer suddenly appeared from behind a spinning rock and fired at point-blank range. 2 alien ships exploded before they could react. The destroyer then vanished behind another asteroid before return fire could hit it. Lieutenant Tae Nam worked frantically at his communications station. The council was jamming all long-range signals, but Tay was clever. He bounced a signal off 3 different asteroids, using them like mirrors. The signal was weak and broken, but it got through. He compressed everything into one burst transmission and sent it toward Earth. The message was simple. Betrayed. Under attack. Coordinates attached. Send help. Back on one of the Council command ships, the alien leaders watched their tactical displays with growing concern. They were supposed to be hunting scattered survivors by now. Instead, they were fighting a mobile battle against an enemy that refused to behave correctly. Worse, they were losing ships. Not many yet, but more than they had planned. Rena Bay, the chief engineer, had been working non-stop since the battle began. She rerouted power from non-essential systems to weapons and shields. She modified missile targeting systems to work better in asteroid fields. She even figured out how to make their engine exhausts look like decoy ships, tricking alien missiles into chasing false targets. Her hands were burned from emergency repairs. Her uniform was covered in grease and blood from helping injured crew members. But she never stopped moving. Every modification she made gave the fleet a better chance. And Rena had learned one thing from Earth's history. Humans were terrifyingly good at modifying things during battle. Commander Jiwoo returned to the carrier after her first attack run. Her fighter was damaged, missing part of one wing. But she had personally destroyed 4 enemy fighters and 1 cruiser. As soon as her fighter landed, she ran to Admiral Day with an idea. The asteroid field had ice asteroids mixed with the rock ones. Ice contained water. Water could be split into hydrogen and oxygen using their ship's emergency systems. Hydrogen was explosive. Jiwoo wanted to mine the ice asteroids, set up explosive traps, and lure Council ships into them. Admiral Day looked at this young commander who had just survived a battle that should have killed her. She was proposing to turn asteroids into bombs while being hunted by a force 3 times their size. It was crazy. It was dangerous. It was exactly the kind of creative thinking that might keep them alive. He approved the plan immediately. Over the next 6 hours, human ships played a deadly game. They pretended to hide, drawing Council ships deeper into the asteroid field. Behind them, they left modified ice asteroids rigged to explode. The first alien squadron that triggered the trap learned what humans could do with limited resources and desperate creativity. 15 Council ships were destroyed when a chain reaction of explosions tore through their formation. The Council forces finally pulled back. They surrounded the asteroid field at a safe distance. They had lost over 40 ships. The humans trapped in the asteroids had lost 12. The math still favored the Council, but the price was far higher than they had planned. Vrel sent a message to his superiors. The humans were contained. They would starve eventually or run out of power. Victory was certain, just delayed. But Vrel did not understand humans. Admiral Day was not trapped in the asteroid field. He was exactly where he wanted to be, buying time while preparing something the Council could not imagine. While some ships set traps and fought skirmishes, others were secretly linking together, sharing resources. Human engineers transferred fuel between ships. They combined damaged vessels into working ones. They built makeshift weapons from spare parts. And they waited. On Earth, Lieutenant Tay's message finally reached home. It took 18 hours because it bounced through so many relay points. When it arrived at Earth Defense Command, alarms rang throughout the building. General Huan Song, an old soldier with scars from Earth's last war, read the message 3 times. The Council had attacked Earth's fleet. 50,000 humans were fighting for their lives. The peaceful galaxy was a lie. The friendly aliens were enemies. Everything had changed in one moment of betrayal. General Huan immediately contacted President Sola Kim. She was in a meeting with civilian leaders, discussing trade agreements and peaceful expansion. When she heard the news, her face became expressionless. She dismissed everyone except her military advisors. President Sola had been elected because she promised peace. She had reduced Earth's military spending. She had trusted the Council. Now her trust had sent 50,000 humans into a death trap. She felt rage burning in her chest, but she pushed it down. There would be time for anger later. Now she needed to act. She gave General Huan full authority. Every military asset Earth possessed was now under his command. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier. She made only one demand: bring their people home. General Huan smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of an old wolf who had just been given permission to hunt. He began making calls. Within hours, Earth was mobilizing for war, not the small peacekeeping force they had maintained. Real war, total war. The kind of war that humans had perfected over thousands of years of bloody history. The Council thought they had destroyed humanity's strength. They had no idea that Earth's deployed fleet was only 10% of its total military power. Humans had learned long ago to never send everything to one place. Always keep reserves. Always prepare for betrayal. In the asteroid field, Admiral Day received a coded message that got through the jamming. It was only 2 words, but they were the most beautiful words he had ever seen. Help coming. He gathered his officers and told them they had to survive for 4 more days. Just 4 days. Then Earth would arrive in force. The trapped fleet cheered. They were battered, low on supplies and surrounded by enemies. But they were alive and help was coming. Commander Jiwoo looked at the tactical display showing hundreds of enemy ships surrounding them. She grinned. 4 days? We can make them regret every single minute. The Council thought they were hunters waiting for their prey to die. They did not realize they were the ones about to be hunted. President Sola Kim stood before the cameras in the Emergency Broadcast Center. Behind her, the flag of United Earth hung on the wall. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned with controlled fury. Every human on Earth, Mars, the moon colonies, and the orbital stations watched. 3 billion people waited to hear what their leader would say. She spoke clearly, choosing each word with care. My fellow humans, 18 hours ago, the Galactic Council betrayed us. While pretending friendship, they planned our destruction. They ambushed our fleet. They attempted to murder 50,000 of our sons and daughters whose only crime was trusting too much. She paused, letting the words sink in. Across Earth, people felt shock turn to anger. But our people live. They fight, and we will bring them home. As of this moment, we are at war. Not a war we wanted. Not a war we started, but a war we will finish. President Sola's voice grew harder. The Council thought humans were weak because we chose peace. They forgot that we chose peace because we know war too well. They are about to learn what happens when you awaken sleeping wolves. She signed the declaration of war on camera. The document gave General Huan complete military authority. Then she spoke the words that would echo through history. To all humans everywhere, we have issued the order. Totalbar. No restrictions. No mercy for those who showed us none. We will fight until our people are safe and the galaxy knows humanity keeps its promises, both for peace and for war. The broadcast ended. Across human space, the reaction was immediate. Factory workers volunteered for military service. Scientists abandoned civilian projects to work on weapons. Shipyards that had been building cargo vessels began producing warships. Humanity had not mobilized like this in 70 years. The Council had reminded humans why they were so good at warfare. General Huan Song stood in Earth Defense Command, surrounded by tactical displays showing the entire galaxy. He was 70 years old, a veteran of Earth's last war, and he had spent decades preparing for this exact scenario. Not because he wanted war, but because he remembered what happened to those who were unprepared. He called his senior staff to the war room. Admiral Min Cho, who commanded Earth's home fleet, arrived first. She was a sharp woman who had spent 30 years planning defensive strategies. Captain Nario, leader of special operations, came next. He was young but had trained in every form of combat humans had invented. Finally, Dr. Kang Jin entered, the brilliant director of advanced weapons research. General Huan looked at them. The Council thinks they have won. They surrounded Admiral Day's fleet and are waiting for them to surrender or die. They believe Earth only has what they saw, 20 battleships and support vessels. They are wrong. He activated a display showing ship counts. The numbers shocked even these experienced officers. Earth had 300 battleships in reserve, along with 800 cruisers and thousands of smaller vessels. They were hidden in shipyards throughout the solar system, camouflaged as civilian structures or mining operations. Admiral Min smiled coldly. The Council never asked how many ships we had. They just assumed. Dr. Kang opened a secure file. We also have weapons they have never seen. The Council shares technology freely. They think all species should use the same equipment. But humans kept researching. We improved everything. And we invented things they never imagined. He showed them Project Hellfire, missiles that could target multiple ships simultaneously. Project Ghost, stealth technology that made ships nearly invisible. Project Hammer, kinetic weapons that used pure speed to destroy targets, bypassing energy shields. And dozens more projects, all developed in secret over 15 years. Captain Nari had his own contribution. My teams have been studying council species for years. We know their psychology, their tactics, their weaknesses. Most council species have never fought a real war. They have peacekeeping missions and small conflicts. They follow ancient combat doctrines unchanged for centuries. We can use that, General Huan nodded. Here is the plan. Admiral Min will take the home fleet and jump directly to Admiral Day's location. You will have 4 days to prepare. Pack every new weapon we have. Do not hold anything back. When you arrive, the Council will face something they have never seen. A human fleet with no restrictions and no mercy. He turned to Captain Nari. While the fleet prepares, your teams will begin operations in Council space. We know where they keep supplies, where their command centers are, where their leaders feel safe. Make them afraid. Make them understand that attacking humanity means nowhere is safe. Finally, he looked at Dr. Kang. I need weapons that will shock them, things that break their understanding of warfare. You have unlimited budget and full authority. Build me nightmares, Dr. Kang grinned. It was not a nice grin. I have been waiting 15 years for this conversation. On the Council homeworld, Ambassador Hana Cho was under house arrest. The Council had not harmed her, but they watched her constantly. They believed she knew nothing about Admiral Day's survival. They thought she was just a diplomat without power. They were wrong on both counts. Hana had been sending coded messages to Captain Minho Park, who had escaped the Council homeworld on a small ship when the attack began. Together, they were building a network. Not all aliens supported the attack on humanity. Some species had been pressured into joining. Others were neutral but afraid. And a few saw the attack as dishonorable. Hana contacted these species secretly. She showed them evidence that the Council leadership had deceived everyone. She reminded them that today it was humans being destroyed. But tomorrow it could be any species the Council feared. She planted seeds of doubt and rebellion. One species, the Torvans, had long memories. They remembered when the Council had threatened them centuries ago. They still resented it. Hana met with a Torvan leader in secret. She made no threats. She just asked one question. When we win this war, do you want to be remembered as our enemies or our friends? The Torvan leader thought carefully. He had seen reports from the battle. The humans had been outnumbered and ambushed, yet they survived and fought back. Humans had technology the Council did not know about. And humans had something else. They had been betrayed, which made them dangerous. Cornered animals fought hardest. Betrayed humans might burn the galaxy. He made his choice. The Torvans would stay neutral and they would share intelligence with Hana. It was not much, but it was a start. Back on Earth, the mobilization continued. Veterans came out of retirement. Young people enlisted by the millions. The peacetime economy shifted to wartime production. Factories that made entertainment devices now made communications equipment. Food production increased to supply a military that was growing every day. Captain Nari launched the first special operations mission on the second day. His team consisted of 20 soldiers, all experts in infiltration and sabotage. They traveled in a small stealth ship that Council sensors could not detect. Their target was a major Council supply depot that was sending ammunition and food to the ships besieging Admiral Day's fleet. The team landed on the depot's asteroid in the middle of the night cycle. They moved through shadows, avoiding patrols. The alien guards were not prepared for humans. Council species did not do this kind of warfare. They fought ship to ship in space, not with soldiers sneaking through corridors. Captain Nari's team reached the main fuel storage. They placed shaped charges on critical points. Then they hacked into the computer system and stole every file they could find. Navigation routes, fleet positions, command codes, everything. Finally, they left a message in the computer system. Humanity remembers betrayal. We are coming. They were back on their ship and jumping to hyperspace when the charges exploded. The supply depot erupted in a massive explosion visible from 3 systems away. The Council fleet besieging Admiral Day suddenly lost 1 month worth of supplies. More importantly, they lost their feeling of safety. If humans could destroy a supply depot deep in Council territory, nowhere was safe. Over the next 3 days, similar attacks happened throughout Council space. A communication relay was destroyed. A military academy was infiltrated and data stolen. A Council governor found a note on his desk. We know where you sleep. The note had been placed there while he was in the room. He never saw the human who left it. Fear spread through the council. They had attacked what they thought was a weak, trusting species. Instead, they had awakened something that fought like ghosts and struck like lightning. The reports from the besieged human fleet made it worse. The humans were not surrendering. They were not even weakening. Somehow, trapped and surrounded, they seemed to be getting stronger. On the fourth day, General Juan stood on the bridge of the battleship Retribution. Around him was the full might of Earth's home fleet, 300 battleships, 800 cruisers, 2,000 smaller vessels. Every ship was loaded with new weapons. Every crew member was angry and ready. They were about to jump to the coordinates where Admiral Day fought for survival. General Juan gave the final briefing. The Council wanted to destroy us quietly. They wanted to make humans disappear without a fight. They failed. Now they face something worse, humans who fight back. When we arrive, remember what they tried to do. Remember the betrayal. And show them what happens when you make humans angry. The fleet jumped to hyperspace. They would arrive in 6 hours. The Council was about to learn a terrible lesson. Humans were dangerous when defending themselves. But humans were absolutely terrifying when defending each other. Commander Vrel sat in his command ship, staring at the asteroid field where the human fleet hid. 4 days had passed since the ambush. His forces still surrounded the humans. He had lost more ships than planned, but victory seemed certain. The humans could not escape. They would run out of supplies eventually. All Vrel had to do was wait. Then his sensors officer made a sound of confusion. "Commander, we are detecting hyperspace signatures." "Many signatures?" Vrel looked at his display. His blood went cold. 300 battleships emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. Behind them came hundreds more ships, all bearing Earth's colors. It was impossible. Earth was not supposed to have this many ships. The intelligence reports said Earth only had a small fleet. The intelligence reports were wrong. General Juan stood on the bridge of the Retribution, watching the Council forces scramble to respond. He had positioned his fleet perfectly. Half surrounded the Council ships. The other half formed a corridor leading to Admiral Day's position. The Council was now trapped between two human forces. He opened a channel to all Council ships. His voice was cold and formal. "This is General Juan, Song of Earth Defense Command. 4 days ago, you attacked our fleet under false pretenses. You betrayed the peace we built together. Now you face the consequences. You have one chance: surrender immediately or be destroyed. You have 5 minutes to decide." Commander Vrel wanted to fight, but he looked at his tactical display. His force of 400 ships suddenly seemed small. The humans had brought over 1,000 vessels. And something about those ships looked wrong. They bristled with weapons he did not recognize. Their shields shimmered with strange energy. These were not the simple ships Earth had shown the Council before. Other Council commanders were panicking on the communication channels. Some wanted to fight. Others wanted to run. A few wanted to surrender. The 5 minutes passed in chaos. No unified decision came. General Juan nodded to Admiral Mincho. "Show them what happens to those who break faith with humanity." Admiral Min gave orders. The Earth fleet opened fire, but not with standard weapons. Dr. Kang's new creations entered battle for the first time. Hellfire missiles launched from human ships, splitting into dozens of smaller missiles in flight. Each missile found a different target. Council point defense systems could not handle the swarm. 20 Council ships exploded in the first 10 seconds. Ghost stealth ships appeared from nowhere. They had been hiding, invisible to Council sensors. They fired from point-blank range at the Council command ships. 3 exploded before they could respond. The Council fleet, which had seemed so powerful 4 days ago, began to fall apart. Commander Wu Han piloted one of the stealth ships. His vessel was small but deadly. He had spent 4 days sneaking through Council formations, mapping their positions, finding their weaknesses. Now he used that knowledge. He appeared behind a Council carrier, fired missiles into its engine, and vanished before they knew he was there. The Council tried to reorganize, but human tactics broke every rule they knew. Ships that should retreat instead charged forward. Small fighters challenged large battleships and won. Human vessels worked together in ways that seemed chaotic but were actually precisely coordinated. The aliens had centuries of combat experience, but it was all against enemies who fought logically. Humans did not fight logically. They fought to win. Inside the asteroid field, Admiral Day received word that help had arrived. His crew cheered. They had survived 4 days of constant pressure, setting traps, fighting skirmishes, and never giving up. Now it was time to stop defending and start attacking. He gave the order. The scattered human fleet surged out of the asteroids like angry hornets. They had spent 4 days learning every trick of fighting an asteroid cover. Now they used those tricks against the Council ships who were already dealing with General Huan's fleet. The Council forces found themselves attacked from inside and outside simultaneously. Commander Jiwoo led her fighters in one final charge. Her squadron had lost half its pilots over 4 days, but the survivors were battle-hardened veterans now. They knew how Council ships moved, how they fought, how they died. She targeted a Council battleship that had been particularly aggressive. Her fighters swarmed it, hitting engines, weapons, shield generators. The massive ship could not track them all. It died under 1,000 small cuts. Dr. Yoon Sol, the battlefield medic, had been treating wounded for 4 days straight. She barely slept. Her medical bay was filled with injured soldiers who fought on despite their wounds. Some had burns, others had broken bones. All of them wanted to return to battle. She did what she could, knowing that Earth's arrival meant the wounded could finally be evacuated to proper hospitals. But Dr. Yoon did more than heal bodies. She recorded messages from the soldiers. Messages about why they fought. Messages about the friends they lost. Messages about refusing to surrender. She broadcast these messages on open channels where Council soldiers could hear them. The aliens heard human voices talking about duty, sacrifice, and revenge. It broke their morale. How could you fight people who would not stop no matter what? The Council fleet was falling apart. Some ships tried to run. Human vessels chased them down. Some tried to surrender. Humans accepted their surrender but kept them under guard. Some tried to fight. They died quickly. The battle that Commander Vrel thought he controlled had become a nightmare. Vice Admiral Min Cho coordinated the overall battle from her flagship. She had studied every major battle in human history. From ancient times to the last war 70 years ago, she knew that the key to victory was not just strength but timing, position, and psychology. She positioned her forces to give the Council nowhere to run. She timed her attacks to keep them off balance, and she made sure every Council ship saw their comrades dying. After 3 hours, Commander Vrel realized he had lost. He sent a surrender message to General Huan. The old general accepted but demanded immediate disarmament. Council ships powered down weapons and shields. Human Marines boarded the vessels to ensure compliance. It was humiliating for the Council, but they were alive. Many of their comrades were not. The battle ended. Earth's forces controlled the field. Of the 400 Council ships that besieged Admiral Day, fewer than 200 survived. The rest were destroyed or too damaged to move. Human losses were light. 30 ships damaged, only 5 destroyed. The tactical victory was overwhelming, but General Huan knew this was just the beginning. The Council's main fleets were still out there. This was one battle. The war had just started. He opened communications with Admiral Day. The younger admiral appeared on screen. His uniform was torn. His face was exhausted, but his eyes were hard and victorious. "General, thank you for the rescue. Though I think we had them right where we wanted them." General Huan actually smiled. "So I saw. Your fleet's performance was exceptional, but now comes the difficult part. We need to take this victory and turn it into a war the Council cannot win." On the Council homeworld, panic was spreading. News of the defeat reached the Council chambers. The leaders who had planned the ambush now faced questions from their own people. How had Earth hidden so many ships? Where did those new weapons come from? And most frightening, what would humans do next? Ambassador Hana Cho heard the news while still under house arrest. She smiled. It was not a kind smile. She activated her secret communicator and sent messages to all the contacts she had built over 4 days. The message was simple. Earth has won the first battle. Choose now which side you want to be on when the war ends. 3 more species declared neutrality within hours. One species, who had been forced into the Council's plan against their will, secretly offered to share intelligence with humans. The Council's unity was cracking. Captain Nari's special operations teams intensified their attacks. Now that open war had begun, they had no reason to hold back. A Council communications hub was destroyed. A fleet staging area was sabotaged. Council leaders started traveling with heavy security because they feared human assassins would come for them. The fear was intentional. Captain Nari could have killed several Council leaders easily, but he chose not to. Dead leaders became martyrs. Frightened leaders made mistakes. He wanted them alive and terrified. He wanted them jumping at shadows and doubting their own security. Psychological warfare was just as effective as physical warfare. Back at the battle site, human engineers were salvaging council ships. Rena Bay led teams that cut apart alien vessels, studying their technology, taking what was useful. Humans had always been good at adapting enemy equipment. Every council ship captured was another source of intelligence and resources. General Juan received reports from across council space. The attacks on supply lines were working. Council fleets were running low on ammunition and fuel. The raids on their territory made them pull ships back for defense. The psychological operations made their leaders paranoid and indecisive. Everything was going according to plan. He called a meeting with his senior officers. The council thought they would destroy us in one quick strike. Instead, they have awakened something they cannot control. Humans united, humans angry, humans who will not stop until justice is done. Admiral Min spoke up. "What is our next target?" General Juan pulled up a star map. He pointed to a system deep in council territory. Their primary shipyard. They have been building vessels there for 300 years. If we destroy it, they cannot replace their losses. And we send a message. Earth can reach anywhere in council space. Nowhere is safe. The officers nodded. It was a bold plan. Aggressive. Dangerous. Exactly the kind of thing humans did best. Commander Jiwoo, who had been invited to the meeting despite her lower rank, asked the important question. "When do we attack?" General Juan looked at his exhausted but determined officers. "Give the crews 6 hours to rest. Then we jump." The council wanted war. "We will give them more war than they can handle." The meeting ended. As officers left to prepare, General Juan looked at the star map showing council territory. They controlled hundreds of systems. They had thousands of ships. They had ancient alliances and vast resources. But they had made one fatal mistake. They had made humanity angry, and an angry human was the most dangerous thing in the galaxy. The Council's primary shipyard orbited a gas giant in the Kelmar system. It had existed for 3 centuries, producing thousands of ships. It was considered impregnable, protected by defense stations, minefields, and a permanent fleet of 200 warships. The Council believed it was safe. They were wrong. General Juan's fleet appeared from hyperspace at the edge of the system. He brought 600 ships. It was the largest human military operation in history. Every vessel was loaded with Dr. Kang's newest weapons. Every crew member knew this attack would decide the war. The Council defense fleet scrambled to respond. Their commander was confident. She had 200 ships plus the shipyard's own weapons. She had defense platforms that could destroy whole fleets. She sent a message to General Juan demanding his surrender. She told him he was outnumbered and facing certain death. General Juan replied with 2 words. Watch closely. The human fleet split into 3 groups. Admiral Min Cho led one group against the defense fleet. Commander Wuhan's stealth ships infiltrated the minefields, disabling them. And Admiral Day led the 3rd group straight toward the shipyard itself. It looked like suicide. A frontal assault against a fortified position never worked. Except humans were not using a frontal assault. They were using something the Council had never seen. Dr. Kang called them hammer rounds. They were not missiles. They were solid metal projectiles accelerated to incredible speeds using magnetic launchers. They had no engines, no guidance, no shields. Just mass and velocity, and they were invisible to most sensors because they were not powered. 3,000 hammer rounds launched simultaneously from human ships. They were tiny on sensors, easy to ignore. The Council defense systems focused on the human ships. That was their mistake. The hammer rounds struck the shipyard at relativistic speeds. The kinetic energy was enormous. Each round hit with the force of a nuclear bomb. The ancient shipyard, which had survived 3 centuries, was torn apart in 30 seconds. The Council fleet watched in horror as their most important facility became debris. 30,000 workers died instantly. Hundreds of half-built ships were destroyed. The loss was not just material. It was psychological. If humans could destroy this, they could destroy anything. Admiral Min Cho pressed her attack against the defense fleet. The alien ships were reeling from shock. They had just watched their protected shipyard die. Their formation was breaking. Min Cho exploited every weakness. Human ships moved in coordinated strikes that seemed impossible. Fighters appeared from nowhere. Missiles struck from unexpected angles. The Council ships fought bravely but were outmatched. Commander Wuhan had disabled enough mines to create safe paths. His stealth ships hunted Council vessels that tried to flee. None escaped. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, the Council defense fleet was destroyed. The shipyard was gone. The system belonged to Earth. On the Council homeworld, emergency meetings were happening constantly. The loss of the shipyard broke something in the Council leadership. They had lost over 600 ships in total. They had lost their main production facility. They had lost the illusion of safety. And worst of all, 3 of their founding species were openly questioning why they had attacked humanity. The Torvans, who Ambassador Hana had been secretly working with, withdrew from the Council military alliance. They announced they would not send more ships to fight humans. Other species began following their example. The Council's unified front was collapsing. President Sola Kim received daily reports of the victories. But she felt no joy. Thousands of humans and aliens had died in this war. The galaxy she had hoped to build peace in was burning. She had been betrayed, yes, but the cost of revenge was terrible. She called General Huan and asked the hard question, "When does this end?" General Huan understood. He was a soldier, but he was also tired of war. The Council must surrender. They must accept responsibility. They must ensure this never happens again, and they must be punished enough that no other species thinks betraying humanity is safe. Once those conditions are met, we can have peace. The Council sent peace envoys to negotiate. General Huan met them in neutral space. The aliens expected harsh terms, but they were not prepared for what humans demanded. Total reorganization of the Council, war crime trials for the leaders who planned the attack, reparations for Earth, human military observers on all Council worlds, and most shocking, a new Council structure where no species could be attacked without unanimous consent from all members, including Earth. The Council delegates protested. These terms would fundamentally change how the galaxy was governed for centuries. Earth would have veto power over all major decisions. It was too much. General Huan listened patiently. Then he showed them a tactical display. Earth had 40 more fleets positioned throughout Council space. Each fleet could destroy a major Council system. He could glass their planets, destroy their colonies, and end their civilization. He had the power to commit genocide, but he did not want that. He wanted justice and peace. He gave them a choice. Accept the terms and survive, or reject them and face annihilation. It was not really a choice at all. The Council took 3 days to debate. Some wanted to fight to the end. Others saw the reality. Earth had proven it could strike anywhere. Humans had weapons the Council could not match. Human soldiers would not quit, and most dangerous of all, humans had shown they would unite completely when threatened. The Council could not win this war. They surrendered. Ambassador Hana Cho walked into the Council chambers for the first time since the war began. She was no longer under house arrest. She was no longer just an ambassador. President Sola Kim had appointed her as the first human chancellor of the reformed Galactic Council. The aliens who had planned to destroy humanity now had to answer to a human leader. Hana felt no satisfaction in this. She looked at the alien leaders who had been her friends. Some looked ashamed. Others looked angry. All looked defeated. She spoke to them clearly. What happened was a tragedy. Trust was broken. Lives were lost. But we have a choice now. We can let this betrayal poison the galaxy forever, or we can build something better. She explained the new system. Every species would have equal representation. No secret military alliances. Complete transparency in Council military operations. Human advisors would help reform Council military doctrine. Species who participated in the attack would pay reparations, but they would not be destroyed. Earth wanted justice, not revenge. One Council leader, an old alien named Kess, who had opposed the attack from the beginning, spoke up. "Why show us mercy? We tried to destroy you." Hana looked at him. "Because we are human. We remember what it is like to be destroyed. We remember centuries of war on our own world. We learned that endless revenge solves nothing. We want peace, but peace built on honesty, not lies. Peace built on mutual respect, not fear. That is why we fought. Not to conquer, but to ensure no one can betray peace again." The Council accepted the terms. Over the next year, the reforms were implemented. Human military advisors went to Council worlds. They taught new tactics, but more importantly, they taught the value of honor in warfare. Captain Nari's special operations teams became instructors, training council forces in methods they had never imagined. Humans shared some technology, but not all. Earth would remain militarily superior, just in case. General Juan retired after the peace treaty was signed. He had done his duty. At his retirement ceremony, young officers asked him what he learned from the war. He thought carefully. I learned that humanity's greatest strength is not our weapons or our tactics. It is our refusal to quit when everything looks hopeless. We were betrayed, ambushed, and outnumbered. But we did not surrender. We fought back. And that determination changed the galaxy. Admiral Day took over as Supreme Commander of Earth Defense Forces. He maintained the fleet at full strength. Some civilian leaders wanted to reduce military spending now that peace had returned. Day refused. He reminded them that the Council had attacked precisely because they thought humans were weak. Strength prevented war. Weakness invited it. Commander Jiwoo became an instructor at the new Galactic Defense Academy. Students from a dozen species came to learn from her. She taught them human tactics, but also human philosophy. Fight to protect, not to conquer. Use minimum force necessary. But if someone attacks you, respond with overwhelming power. The galaxy learned these lessons well. Dr. Kang Jin continued his weapons research, but now he also worked on defensive technology. He invented shield systems that could protect entire planets. He developed medical technology that saved lives. His wartime inventions were adapted for peaceful purposes. The genius that created weapons of war now created tools of peace. 10 years passed. The galaxy was different now. The reformed Galactic Council functioned with unprecedented transparency. No species dared attack another because everyone knew humans would intervene. Earth had become the galaxy's police force not through conquest, but through demonstrated strength and proven honor. President Sola Kim, now in her final year of office, gave a speech at the anniversary of the war's end. She stood before representatives from every council species. 10 years ago, we faced betrayal that could have destroyed us. Instead, it made us stronger. It united humanity. It taught the galaxy that peace requires both trust and strength. We remember those we lost. We honor their sacrifice by ensuring no other species suffers similar betrayal. She unveiled a memorial on Earth. It listed every human who died in the war. 53,000 names. Each name represented someone who trusted the Council, who believed in peace, who died because of lies. The memorial reminded everyone, human and alien alike, of the cost of betrayal. Ambassador Hana, now Chancellor Hana, visited the memorial often. She touched the names of people she knew, people she sent to their deaths by trusting too much. She made a promise to them and to herself, never again. The Council would never be allowed to become what it was. She would spend her life ensuring that trust was earned, not assumed. In a small apartment on Earth, Lieutenant Tai Nam lived quietly. He had retired after the war, suffering from injuries sustained in battle. But he was alive. He had sent the message that saved the fleet. He had helped expose the Council's lies. Sometimes journalists asked for interviews. He always refused. He was not a hero. He was just a communications officer who did his job. But late at night, when he could not sleep, he thought about those terrifying hours when he decoded the ambush plan. He thought about how close humanity came to destruction, and he was grateful that Admiral Day trusted him, that Earth responded in time, that humans fought back instead of surrendering. Those decisions made in moments of crisis had changed everything. The galaxy was at peace, not the naive peace humanity had believed in before the war. Real peace, built on honest communication, mutual respect, and the knowledge that humanity would defend itself and its principles. The Council had tried to destroy humans in secret. Instead, they had elevated humans to guardians of galactic justice. It was not the peace President Sola had originally wanted. It came at a terrible cost. But it was peace that would last because everyone understood the alternative. War with humanity meant fighting an enemy that would not quit, could not be intimidated, and would win through sheer determination. The Galactic Council had deceived humans. They thought they could eliminate a potential threat easily. They were wrong. Humanity issued the order for total war, and in doing so, proved they were the most dangerous species in the galaxy when betrayed. Now they used that reputation to keep the peace, and the galaxy was better for it.